JC here for RetireCheap.Asia. I want to actually get your input on something. You know, it's really cool living over in some places where the laws are a little lax and regulations are lax, because it opens up a lot of opportunities, and so that's a really good thing. But it's a double-edged sword, because you're also not as protected in certain situations as you could be, or it gives people a little too much leeway to do things that they normally wouldn't do back home. So I want to tell you about a little situation and also get your feedback about it. So it's like I know this property where there's three what we call townhouses, two-story apartments stuck together, so it's a triplex, and then there's a little house on the same property, and it's in sort of a little compound. Now, I've known the people that have lived in one of the units since I guess 10 years, and he was a Canadian, he is a Canadian. Then in the middle one of the townhouses, these three triplex, the middle one, there was another Canadian, and he was a friend of mine. And so he had been there, and both of those guys had been there, gosh, I don't know, 8 years or something like that. One maybe longer than that, 10 years or something. And so then there was an American that moved on the end, and I knew this American because I had a shop when I first moved up in the north. I had a little shop, and he used to come in, and he's a little quirky, but I just took it as that, a little strange and quirky. But hey, there's a lot of people over here that are strange and quirky, and so I didn't think much about it. So I moved around, did a lot of different things, and I decided to come back. And the Canadian in the middle unit decided to take off. So I said, wow, perfect, I'll move into that place. So moved all my stuff in and was waiting to go give the deposit to the landlord. And the American guy, and I'll just call him Colonel Clink for now, and you'll probably understand why in a little bit. He had been there for a few years, and he decided that he didn't want anybody in that middle unit, and threatened to take back all his money, because he pays by the year, and threatened the landlord that if she put anybody in there, that he wanted all his money back for the year. And she acquiesced, and I didn't move. So it caused a little bit of difficulty for me, but it was no big deal. I think everything happens sort of for a reason. So I found another place, and he ended up paying the rent for the middle unit, so nobody would have to be there. Now, a little background about this is, like, in the compound, and I call it a compound, it's gated, a little fence with a gate. This guy has video camera surveillance, and also halogen spotlights that come on that are motion detected. So when you roll the gate open to come in, all these things come on. And so, I've never, I think it's a little overkill, but hey, some people are just that way. So anyway, the house ended up coming up for rent. And this was about, I don't know, and I actually went off and rented something from this same landlord for over a year. And so I found out that this little house was coming up for rent on the property, so it's a triplex and then this house. And so I went to the landlord, she showed me the place. I thought it was really cool, it's inexpensive, I'm not here a lot, so it'd be perfect. So I went ahead and gave her a deposit on the thing and moved in. Well, I guess Colonel Clink freaked out about this, because he doesn't have control over his compound, and started sabotaging me, and so did some malicious things to the motorcycle, sprayed stuff in the windows of the bedroom, and in the meantime, I'm a pretty quiet guy. I don't really I'm working or traveling or something like that, so it's not a big, I'm not a pesky neighbor. And I never said anything about the halogen lights coming on when I come into the gate, or the video camera surveillance. I didn't like it, but hey, it sort of reminds me of Big Brother, but this guy's paranoid, what the hell. But, he started doing stuff to me to sabotage me or to cause me challenges. And one of the things he did was, and I never said anything about his farm in front of my house. He's got corn and stuff planted in containers, and they spread all the way out in front of my place as well. And I never said anything about this. But anyway, he started throwing birdseed up on my roof. So every morning I'd wake up and I'd hear this tap, 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 tap of the birds pecking away at the roof. And so I left him a note saying, hey, I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't throw the birdseed on the roof. Thanks a lot. And he wrote this sarcastic note back where, thanks for handling this so politely or something, because I left a note instead of talking to him, but I didn't really want to have interaction with the guy, And so last week, I actually came home and walked in the house, and there's this peck, 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 peck all over the roof. I mean, really loud. So I tossed some water up on the roof to get the birds to fly off, and a couple seconds later they're back again. I did this like 3 times and couldn't get the birds to go away. I'm thinking, wow, there must be a lot of birdseed up on that roof. So I opened up the gate. Now, because of the other stuff he had done, the landlord actually built a fence inside the compound, a fence around my house to keep this guy away. You know, they felt really bad about, you know, me being harassed, so they built this fence. So I had to go around, open the gate of the fence, unlock it, put a chair there, a big chair, so I could stand up, look on the roof, and there's birdseed all over the roof. Now this guy's standing there watching this with his girlfriend, and I said, look, I asked you, you know, not to throw birdseed up on the roof. He said, well, I only do it when you're not home. Well, that got me. You know, I'm a pretty passive guy, you know, but some people confuse kindness for weakness, and I'm not weak. So I get off the chair and I walk right up into his face and say, listen, I'm not intimidated by you. I'm not afraid of you. You need to stop doing all this stuff. And he said, are you in my face? I said, yes, I want you to understand you need to stop this. You know, I don't do anything. Okay? Now, in a minute I'll complete that, but I need to go back for a second because 2 weeks before that, I saw him coming in the gate. And I stopped and said, look, I need to clear the air about something. I actually said, you know, maybe you think I have some animosity about, you know, what you did with the townhouse, you know, the unit and everything. I said, that wasn't a problem. You know, I think everything happens for a reason. And I understand you have this little thing going on here and you wanted to protect it, so I don't have a problem with that. And as you probably know by now, I've been here a couple of months, I'm a pretty quiet guy, you know. And he just walked away, didn't say anything. So anyway, when I get down off the chair and walked up into his face and said, look, I'm not intimidating you, and I wasn't far from him, but I didn't lay a hand on the guy. And he said, are you in my face? I said, yes, I want you to understand you need to stop. I'm not afraid of you. Now, he's actually taller than me, and I'm a tall guy. Well, he pulled out a can of mace and maced me. That's right. Pulled out a can of mace and maced me. And I just closed my eyes, and it was burning, and I, you know, said, I hope the video camera caught that, because that's assault. But he had all set this whole thing up. He knew what he was doing. You know, he threw the birdseed on the roof, knew I would come down. You know, they pushed me to my limit, and I came down, and he stepped back far enough where I don't think the camera even caught it. So anyway, I stumbled to the landlord's place, which isn't far away, and told him, you know, Colonel Klink, I'll use Colonel Klink, sprayed me with pepper spray. Well, these women, they're so nice. My landlords are so nice. They felt really bad about this. So they took me to the hospital, paid for the hospital bill. And then I said, I need to go make a report about this at the police station. Well, guess who was at the police station when I got there? This guy, trying to say that I did something. Now, one thing I got to give him credit for is I actually asked him why I was there. I didn't want to talk to the guy, but you know, the police were saying, well, you're both Americans. Why don't you, you know, embrace each other and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, this guy's not my friend, you know? And, you know, I just wanted to leave me alone. And I said, but, you know, I said, did you throw the birdseed on the roof before? Yeah. He said, yeah. I said, did I ask you not to? Yeah. Okay. Did you throw it again on the roof? Yeah. Did I touch you? No. Did you spray me with mace? Yes. So at least he was honest about that. I gotta give him credit, because he could have lied and said whatever he wanted to. Well, the police wrote up the report and everything, and I didn't press charges or anything. But anyway, that's what hung me up, and why I didn't get the membership site launched, because then I went out and said, you know, well, maybe I need to find another place. You know, if this guy doesn't want me there, I don't want to be harassed, you know, no, this isn't comfortable at all. So my question to you all is, what would you have done? And don't say kick his ass. There's people like this everywhere in the world. Now, like I said, the interesting thing about this is, immediately he would have been arrested for assault back home. No doubt about it. But over here, there's some gray areas about that, and they think you should be able to resolve this kind of stuff. But allowed him to do it, and he thinks he can get away with this. And so what I want to know is, what would you have done? Or what would you do now? Would you find another place, or would you hold your ground and be resolute that, hey, I have the same rights that this guy does, and he has no reason to kick me out of here and force me to leave? Now, the landlords don't want to kick him out, because they think if they did, he's going to come back and retaliate against me. And he's still got quite a bit of time left on his lease. So my question is, and if you were in my position, what would you do? I want to get your feedback, because, hey, you know, I consider a lot of you all friends. You know, you watch all these videos, so That's the scoop, and that's the reason why it's been a little bit of a delay getting the membership site up. So I hope you understand. And so tell me, what are the options? Because I know there's a lot of options, but I want to hear what you have to say. So there you go. You know, this is the way I roll. You know, I'm not going to pull punches and say this place is heaven and bliss when there's challenges. I want you to all know what they are. And so this is one of the challenges. So I hope you understand, and I want to get your feedback. So let me know. All right? Take care.